Welcome to Memoirs of a Twisted Mind. I'm your host, Eddie Stanley. Been away for a while, but today's episode, I want to do something different. It's not about men, women. It's about connecting and actually helping each other. Because today is a very special day. Today is a day that I'm celebrating my daughter's 14th birthday. Here's the downside about that. She was a stillborn. And that was very hard, very tricky. This is probably one of the episodes that you go see where I'm somewhat vulnerable. But if you're somebody that busts on and say, oh, how can you be vulnerable? Or if you're a female that sit back and say, oh, you don't know what it's like because I'm not here for that noise. We hurt the same. We grieve the same. Yes, it is different, but to sit back and say a man who actually was looking forward to having another kid still hurts the same. Still feels pain. If you really want to see, go back to one of my older episodes that should be popping up now. And you come back to this and see the difference of how I had to do research. I had to actually go and actually look up things. The stuff that I didn't know then that I know now, that should have been able to help me where I didn't go through a downward spiral. Because see, here's what make it so hard and so messed up is because like couples in general, but let's deal with married, whatever your definition of married is. Around 80% of marriages end following the loss of a child. And even when I read it, even the person that ended up writing it said, I was shocked to see that. As for me, I said 80% of marriages at the time where we need each other the most. Granted, I understand that the grieving process is completely different. Us as men, we get isolated. We talk to people about it. We try to get the image and try logically to figure out what happened. Was it something that on our end that we do to stress out the woman, do this, whatever the case? Same reason on why women may look at themselves as, am I even worthy to be a mother? What's going on? Where is it a factor? And all this stuff, especially if they're in their 20s still. Like, you have a kid, then the second kid, that is very hard. And that was something that, like I said, I could have went, they're not sponsored, but I could have went to good therapy. I could have seeked out like trauma for men and all that stuff. But no, I felt prideful of saying, oh no, I can work it out for myself, where technically I really couldn't work it out myself until later on, once I started getting a little bit older. And I think that's the reason why I have female friends. Maybe it's my escape to actually try to teach the younger females, because in some way I look at them as the daughter I never had, and I try to help and guide them in the right direction. I don't know. That could be part of it. But who knows? And like, even when you go through something like that, the worst things you can say to somebody that's going through that, like, no matter what, if you don't know what it's like to actually lose a child, whether it's stillborn, maybe miscarriage, any little thing, the worst thing you can say is everything happens for a reason. Because quite honestly, when people said that to me, and this was even some family members, I looked at them and went, yeah, so what's the reason? Because I was bitter, I was mad. That was the only way I could actually get out my sadness of just going, so what's the reason? Why this person get to have their daughter but I can't? Or maybe it's for the best. The best of who? The best of what? Please tell me, because if it was for the best, why do I still feel like trash? I feel like fecal matter. I feel like just garbage. Another one, maybe it wasn't meant to be. Why? Why wasn't it meant to be? Explain that to me. Give me a reason on why it wasn't meant for me to have a little girl. And yeah, I can sit back and joke and do all the jokes I want of saying, yeah, females is kind of easy. It's just when they turn 12, it gets hard. And like, I know what you're thinking. Some females, some are like, oh, because of our cycle or whatever. No, that's the easy part. It's the, like, the kids that nowadays that look like they about 32, even though they saying they 15, 16, knocking on your door saying, is your daughter home? For what? She ain't home. Who is you? Your beard is bigger than mine. Nah. The last one, and like, I don't want to get into the semantics, and I think that's the reason why I'm the person that I am, is when people say it was God's will. That is the wrong thing you could say to somebody who actually lost their kid, that it was his will, because I'm not the most religious person in the world. I know what I believe in, but when I expire, when my lifetime subscription run out, I got questions. And I need to get answers, because that's just the person that I am. But that's why now I can sit back and actually talk about my daughter, about the what ifs, on how it would have been 3 years between the other two, both ways. How would they would have interacted with each other? How all this stuff could it be? I can talk about that and fantasize it, like fantasize about it and actually do. But if you're somebody that can't do that and the pain is too great, I encourage you to go get help. I'm talking from somebody who went through 9 years of trying to figure it out until I actually broke down and start reading everything. Even with the older video that I mentioned earlier. That was me still being a broken shell and everything, where I still was holding her carrying basket of everything that they gave us from the hospital. Had her pictures, blanket, all that stuff, because the worst thing and the confusing thing was, and I know anybody who has went through this, is seeing the kid breathing. They do everything possible, and then that's when they realize, regardless of how big the stomach was, she was only 5 months. If it was next month, could have been a chance. It would have been probably disabilities, probably any type of health things. Where she could have been a lifer for me forever until the day I expire. And the saddest thing was holding her, putting her in the basket, dozing off to sleep, and then waking up to hear your significant other at the time crying, saying she's gone. And you're hoping that it's just a bad dream. You go back to sleep and wake up and realize it was a freaking nightmare. Because women can sit back and say that men are not tough. That was the toughest thing I had to do, because as she was breaking down, I had to stay strong, but inside I was devastated. But I knew I still had to look after the one that was here, while she went through postpartum depression, all that good stuff. And I actually commend her for holding it together as well as myself. So, to my daughter, it's been 14 years. Happy birthday, Hope Aaliyah Stanley. You are missed, but you are not forgotten, because your dad loves you. This has been Memoirs of a Twisted Mind. I have been your host, Eddie Stanley. And the question I got for you is, if you are going through this, seek help. And also, what are you going to do different today?